Hey everybody, it's Michael. Today I'm here to talk to you about gut health. I've got three main components of gut health. And the number one thing that most people have problems when it comes to gut health is very important, because if this isn't working correctly, you're never going to get your gut health in check. So the first thing is having low stomach acid. If you don't have enough stomach acid in your stomach, no digestion process is going to be proper without having proper stomach acid. So there's a few factors that surround stomach acid and the way the body produces it. But one thing is, as you get older, the body doesn't produce as much stomach acid. People call this aging, and I don't like that terminology. Aging is just a dysfunction or dysregulation in one of our body processes. And if we can do certain things to enhance that function, then we'll come out of the aging process, right? So another big contributor to lowering your stomach acid is just stress. Stress produces a hormone called cortisol. High levels of cortisol are going to stop and shut all digestion, and it prohibits or lessens the body's ability to produce hydrochloric acid in the stomach lining. Another thing that's real common is a bacterial infection. When our stomach acid isn't correct, bacteria can move through our digestive system and get in places where it's not supposed to be. One of those is definitely in the stomach. One of the main bacteria that will get into the stomach when the acid isn't high enough is going to be the H. pylori bacteria that can eat holes in the lining of the stomach. And anytime you eat, it doesn't matter what you eat, your stomach bloats up. It's painful. Sometimes it's not painful. And these H. pylori bacteria are a main contributor to stomach ulcers. Another thing that will greatly reduce the stomach acid in the stomach is any kind of drug that's designed to lower stomach acid. That can be PPIs, H2 inhibitors, and antacids. If you're taking antacids or any drug because you've got GERD or you've got discomfort in the esophagus from stomach contents coming up in there, that's not a good scenario, because what's actually happening is the stomach acid isn't high enough to close the lower esophageal sphincter. The other valve that needs proper acidity to function properly is the ileocecal valve. Now this valve sits at the bottom of the stomach, right before it goes into the small intestine, what we call the duodenum. So with proper acidity level, it tells that valve to stay shut, right? So when you eat food, your acidity level actually gets higher. You get more acidic after you eat food. That tells that valve to shut down to keep the stomach contents in the stomach. If the acidity level in the stomach isn't high enough, that valve will stay flapping open, and your food will not properly digest because it hasn't stayed in the stomach long enough. It gets dumped into the intestines at an improper time. One of the other things that proper acidity level in the stomach does, it tells the pancreas when to drop enzymes to digest your food. These enzymes, no matter if it's a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat, will use enzymes to break these foods down. The other thing is the proper acidity level tells the gallbladder also when to dump bile. So all this function of digestion in the stomach is very dependent on the actual pH levels in order to activate these functions. Another big reason for having proper stomach acid in your stomach is the acidity kills pathogens in the foods that you eat. So if there's any bad bacteria or parasites or anything like that, the high acidity level will kill those pathogens so that they don't get into your intestinal tract. So how do we know if we have proper stomach acid? I do what I call a burp test. Sounds funny, but you just take some baking soda, you mix it in some water, and you drink it down. And then you time how long it takes you to burp. Sometimes people don't burp at all. That means you have really low levels of stomach acid. We want our stomach acid levels to be high, so this will indicate a low stomach acidity level. Again, we need stomach acid to tell our lower esophageal sphincter to close. We need it to tell our ileocecal valve to close or open. We need it to tell the pancreas to dump enzymes and the gallbladder to dump bile. And if your acidity levels aren't correct, then those functions aren't going to happen, and you're going to have a dysregulated digestive system. In this irregulated digestive system, the function can look like anything. We can go from Crohn's to IBS to any of the gut disorders that people are talking about. And the main one that I see all the time is that people's stomach acid isn't high enough. If your stomach acid levels aren't high enough and you don't get the bile dump or you don't get the pancreatic enzyme dumps, then that's going to cause dysregulation in the whole rest of the process. And what happens is most often people come to me and their diet, when we go over their diet, is mostly carbohydrates or processed foods. Carbs and processed foods are really easy for the body to digest. And so somebody will just know, hey, I eat this high-fat meal, it upsets my digestion. So they quit eating high-fat meals, and the same goes for proteins. Proteins are the hardest for the body to digest. And if you're not digesting them properly, yeah, they make our guts hurt. They make us not feel good. They make us get bloated. All the symptoms of any of the digestive disorders that are out there. So we really need a proper pH in the stomach as we start to eat in order for this process to start correctly. So a lot of people will start eating high carb and high processed food diets. I don't have a problem with that. When you eat high protein foods or high fat foods and they hurt your stomach, yeah, don't eat those foods. And what we need to do is we need to fix the root cause. So the second thing that can cause gut dysregulation that I see a lot in people is just having high cortisol levels. So cortisol is dumped when the autonomic nervous system is in a sympathetic state. That means you're in a stress state or you're in a state of fight or flight. Sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system shuts down digestion. We're not going to digest foods, and we're going to have digestive issues if we're in high cortisol and it's shunting and stopping the digestive process. So the third main cause of gut problems that I see is just vagus nerve dysregulation. Cranial nerve 10, or the vagus nerve, runs down the side of the head, through the neck, and it controls heart, lungs, stomach, spleen, pancreas, all of that. It controls all those different organs. If that nerve process through the entire length of the body gets dysregulated and signals can't be sent properly, again, it controls digestion, so you're not going to have a good digestive process. So if your cranial nerve 10 or your vagus nerve is being impeded somewhere in your neck or shoulder area, some of the signs, a sore neck, especially right in here. If you can poke around in there and you've got tender spots, it's an indication that you could have a vagus nerve impingement. Other things that are really common, one just having a dry cough. It coughs all the time. You could have difficulty in swallowing, and you can have slight changes in your voice. If you have forward neck posture, your head sticking forward, that puts a lot of strain on these muscles in the back of the neck. Over time, these muscles and stuff in here all get shorter. That pressure will rest on your C vertebrae in the back of your head. So we have the atlas, which is a C1, and the axis, which is C2, and the brainstem actually goes down through the bone structure of those vertebrae. And if C1 and C2 get offset, then you got a smaller area for the brainstem, and that can put pressure on nerves. One of the ways that I like to help correct that is hanging upside down. We'll decompress the spine, decompress those muscles. That will give relief and help you start to correct. There's also a thing that we do called wall angels. It's basically the same thing as doing snow angels in the snow. You just do them up against a wall. So you put your heels and your butt and your shoulders and your head up against the wall. You work at trying to tuck your chin down, and then you just raise your arms up and down, full range of motion. And the biggest thing is to stop doing what's causing us to get that forward posture. If you sit all day at a typewriter, try to find ways to sit up. Try to keep your chin tucked. That's one of the main things, is you lean forward and you start poking your chin out. And that really is detrimental to those vertebrae in the neck. So if you have to sit and type all day, really work on getting your posture upright and tucking that chin down.